Actor Edward James Olmos worked his way out of an East Los Angeles barrio to gain an Emmy for Miami Vice and an Oscar nomination for Stand and Deliver. Stand up, stand and deliver, stand up and deliver, stand and deliver. Jaime Escalade. Through it all, he has never lost his conviction to tackle the tough issues facing society. He returned to his home to direct and star in the new movie American Me, a realistic portrayal of the roots of urban crime and violence, and I'm pleased to have him join me now. Welcome.
Charlie, it's a pleasure to see you again.
Good to see you again, it is. Tell me about this film and why you felt compelled to make it and why you so strongly believe that it is a message that we all better hear, because it certainly touches today's headlines in terms, in your own words, a culture of violence that is inflicting urban America.
It's an interesting time period for us. As a matter of fact, Robert
Hughes is talking. You were in the green room talking about it.
Yeah, we were just going through it. It was wonderful. But the reason I made the film was I found it to be an extraordinary story in 1973 when I heard about it. And I found that the penal institutions had organized crime, and I didn't know anything about the organized crime. I knew that there was, of course, there was criminals in prison, but I didn't know about the organized crime and their outreach into the communities at large. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons why I found the story to be very fascinating.
This was a script that had been floating around for 10 years in Hollywood. 18. Yeah, 18 years. 18 years. And one that everybody thought was a good script and ought to be made, but nobody somehow had ever made it.
Mm-hmm. It was almost made, but basically it was made. I think that the timing had a lot to do with it, plus the subject matter and the concept, because the concept was a little bit different. There was a little bit more romanticization in the piece prior to the way we finished doing it. There's very little romanticization
of this idea of crime. In fact, you were critical of The Godfather and of Andy Garcia and others by saying they romanticize gangsters, and in fact you want to go home and have dinner with the Corleones, and something is wrong with that because of who they are and what they do.
Criticizing would be the wrong word. I know it was printed that way in the Washington Post, which is very interesting, but it's more of a situation of understanding, because it is entertainment. Right. We are entertaining people. We use the facts more, allow people to experience the facts. We don't manipulate people, nor do we try to play any kind of a result in our work, whether it be the camera, or the acting, or the writing. And we allow them to experience the event and come in with their own sense of values and walk out with that. That's a style. What I was saying about that is that there was a different style being done by these people, and the style was a little bit more commercial in its ability to...
In The Godfather, yeah. Sure. And here we are meeting people who are brutal and who, as you have said in speeches, I mean, the Washington Post at least reported this as well, that you're standing up and saying, you know, this ought to scare the hell out of you.
Well, it's not that it should scare. What it does is it allows you to see the facts. Yeah. Then the facts, when you see them, Charlie, definitely become something that you have to look at. You got to remember, there's only 8 actors in the prison sequences. Right. All the rest of the people that you see inside of the prison are either the guards of Folsom or the inmates.
You got permission to film inside Folsom.
Oh, yeah.
Tell me quickly the story, because I want to show a clip and the character you play, Santana.
Yeah, it's a story about a dysfunctional family and how this dysfunctional family breeds their values upon one another. Very much the situation of passing on behavior from father to son to brother, and how this behavior has now climbed into the essence of what we're looking at today in our society, with the violence that is occurring in a society now that has never been seen before. This scene that you're about to see in the clip that you're talking about is a scene in which after the manipulation of drug situations out on the street by this you know, was very fresh in the 70s when we were talking about it, in the time period that we're looking at, the way that they handled the streets. There was a war that started, and this war causes this effect to happen in these people's lives.
Before we roll tape, your character really was the leader of a gang in prison, a Mexican-American gang that had, from prison and outside, reached outside to have a major an impact on the cell,
extortion, prostitution, gambling,
and drugs, and the selling of drugs. Roll tape, America.
Neto? Mama! 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 Call an ambulance! Get Miko out of here! Miko! Miko! I love you!
This is powerful stuff.
It's honest, very factual. It allows you to see the realities of the situation.
What do you want the audience to come away from? Because you're out and you're proselytizing for this film because you believe it has a message and you want it to have a political impact as well as an entertainment value.
Well, I think that the dialogue, as we were talking in between the situation here, we're talking the violence today in all the country as
The
a whole.
devaluing of human life.
Yeah, is really extraordinary, and it's really it's been bred throughout hundreds of years, and as we see in this one scene that we're just looking at, this is the impact of society. Of the actions that are going on the outside that this family feels that repercussion. This child died of an overdose of heroin, but not because he took too much, because it was clean, so clean, it was pure, that it killed him because it was pure. And it was a way to kill many people at that time out on the streets when this war started between the Italian mafia and the Mexican mafia, who was governing the prison, and they started to govern the streets. And it was a very difficult time period, and it still is. It's very, very critical still even today. The streets are there's a war zone going out there. And the crime that we've seen, which is really what we're talking about, is
Let me
really...
just interrupt. I made the point that the two things that are most alarming to me in terms on ought to be higher on America's agenda and ought to be more discussed in the political campaign other than just tax cuts is the notion, one, of racism in our society, and secondly, the notion of urban violence, the senseless carnage, and in fact, things like drive-by shootings where people who don't even know someone just drive by, and this is a scene in your film, and just shoot someone.
Charlie,
a little kid shooting someone for no reason and no value in life.
Charlie, this is something I was going to ask. I've been asking the intellectuals of our society as a whole, and historians especially, anthropologists, throughout the country, and I've been asking this question wholeheartedly. When has there ever been a civilization that has bred children killing children for no reason? Now, we've had children killing children, but basically that's been taught to them so that when they get older, they can use it in military for whatever situation that they're going to use it for. But basically, children killing children for no reason, which is something that is just occurring now in the last 15, 20 years, and really taken its shape in the last 10 years. And in the last 5, you see it like in Brooklyn, we saw 2 children were killed in school. Right. 60 Minutes had 90,000 weapons were confiscated in the United States of America from high school children going to school with guns.
And why do you think it's true? Why is it happening to us?
Boy. You'd have to go back to the conception of the behavior being passed on from father to, from generation to generation.
From dysfunctional family breed?
No, you can't. It's not that simple to be able to say to you right now in 10 minutes, 1 minute or less, that it does have a basis on the family, of course. It does have a basis on spirituality, on the entire structure economically, on the situation of politics, on culture, on racism, on all of the things that breed the negative power and the negative energy. At the present time, this phenomenon that we're experiencing is not going to stop. It's only going to escalate. And right now we're seeing children hitting children with guns. What are they going to breed in the next generation?
When you talked about this when you were at Folsom Prison, you did surveys and you said how many people want to do something, make a contract. Tell me what you said to those prisoners.
Well, basically, the way to get them to work with us, I asked them one question: how many of you have had a brother, sister, father, mother, grandfather, grandmother, aunt or uncle, direct relative that has been in prison before you? 99%, easily. I mean, just by a few. Maybe out of 500, there was maybe 6 or 7 people, men, who did not raise their hands. And it stunned the administration because they had never asked that question in a mass, to really look at this generation being bred inside of this situation. It's a subculture within this it's a society. And I asked them how many would like to have their sons or their grandsons or their brothers, nephews or nieces or relative after them come in here, and then none of them raised their hands. I said, okay, fine, help me make this movie. And they did. It's the first time in the history of this country that we saw a penal institution opened up this way, allowed to be photographed and inmates used,
Now,
and the first time in the history of this country that Folsom Prison, one state prison, where blacks, whites, browns, yellows, and reds all work together towards one common goal and one common understanding.
The film leaves you with a pessimistic message, doesn't it?
Well, no, it leaves you with a truth.
Yeah. And the truth is pessimistic, though, to you.
On the level of the children, but there's a very optimistic view that is given by the female. See, that's the difference here. The female in the movie, as we see right here, this lady who we just experienced, the female in the movie is the solemn voice of hope in this subculture, in this little slice of life. This is not all the culture.
And you believe and you argue with the film and beyond that women are the hope.
Women are the hope of this planet. Yeah. And then not that I say that they're the only hope, because man has to be able to understand.
Because of values, because of...
Very basics. I can get
30 seconds, but go ahead.
Very basic. I can get any colored man, put them together, and men, because of color, race, culture, political belief, ego, pride, whatever, will not bond together, even for the sanction of the entire planet as a whole. To stop the ozone layer, we will not bond. You can get a woman, a black woman, white woman, brown woman, red woman, yellow woman. I'm just talking feminine. I'm not saying all women or all men. Just the feminine aspect of life. Because of the love of woman, or the love of child, they will in turn get rid of all of the differences and come together. And that's, I think, the hope.
Thank you. Sorry I'm out of time.
God bless you, John.
Pleasure.
It's good to see you again.
Good to see you. America Me, the story produced, directed, and starring Edward Olmos. It's always good to have you here, and let's do it again and talk more.
Thank you, Charlie.
We'll be back in just a moment.